America's throwing away its good cards. China and Russia must be celebrating. They dreamed of breaking the Atlantic Alliance, and Trump is delivering that one on a platter to them. We're in the second Cold War. It will last several generations.
Is this imperialism or spectacle?
Of course it's imperialism when you're demanding other people's resources. There are two ways Russia could go down. One is if it's...
Is America about to die? Was Europe ever in such a bad state as right now, having enemies on both sides?
Oh, God, yes. You think it was better in
Where?
World War II?
And when?
World War II, you think it was better? And you had none of the institutional structures. You had no tradition of Germans and French cooperating with each other, or anyone doing much cooperation. And think about it. Oh, yeah, it's the great enterprise of European institution building. I'm not an expert on this, but it seems to me it's Benelux, which is formed in 1944. So Netherlands, Belgium, Luxembourg. They've been trying to form a trade union since the 19th century. Had never gotten anywhere. They finally do it. And then there are a series of institutions that are created thereafter, some of them that go by unanimity, right? And other ones by majority vote. And they have developed so that now it's of all areas of human cooperation. There are various institutions where in a heartbeat, you can assemble people, important people from countries who have portfolios. I mean, government portfolios where they can act across Europe. And I get it, that it's slow, working with a lot of people, it's powerful. Dictators just double down on stupid decisions. It gets worse and worse and worse. But democracies have the ability to reassess. You send the party out of power that hasn't been delivering, you put a new one in. You've forgotten that you just turned the lights on now. When was the electrification of Europe completed? I know in the United States, a lot of it was after World War II. But we're a big country. I don't know how that works in Europe. It's smaller, so it's easier to electrify things. There's no TV available during the Napoleonic Wars. If people could actually have filmed what was going on there, I think it would be a lot of mayhem, and that might have been pretty awful. There must have been people who starved to death over armies coming in and just trashing everything.
Subscribe to our channel so you don't miss upcoming episodes with Sarah Paine.
Is America about to die?
No, it's decline. America, it's like Russia's not going to disappear. Well, unless we all nuke each other, and then we shall all disappear. And the rats and cockroaches shall inherit the earth.
Trump plays resource imperialism, you mentioned. Is this imperialism or spectacle?
Of course it's imperialism when you're demanding other people's resources. And it can be a reality TV show too, whatever, but it has strategic effects. What do you suppose everyone in Latin America is doing right now?
If isolationism isn't frank and Americans want to keep hard control over Europe, what doesn't that control looks like in practice? Hypothetically.
You're talking about the United States trying to control empires? Yeah. Like physically go into Venezuela? Oh, that'll work well. We did so well in Afghanistan. The Taliban is back, full circle.
Don't you think that it looks like Russia controlling Poland in 18th century?
It takes boots on the ground, and American soldiers and servicemen may decide that that is not the place they want to go and die for. And why? Why? This is the whole problem. This is an incredibly, anachronistic way of looking at power in terms of the land you occupy. That's the continental thing. The way you make money is through compounded wealth, and that comes from industry, commerce, and trade. It does not look at Russia. It has all the resources in the world. It's poor, right? What is it? In 1980, I think Russia had 6 times the GDP of China. Now China has 9 times the GDP of what's left of Russia. I get it. Russia lost a lot of pieces, but it kept the richest part. It's a wealth-destroying model. It's profoundly, it's a pivotal error. Future generations will pay the price. America's throwing away its good cards. Who does that? China and Russia must be celebrating. They're going to hold a special party watching the United States just tear up one good car after another after another.
Could Donald Trump destroy NATO?
Trump can destroy the United States part in NATO by just dumping it. But all of the organizing structures that Europeans have, that doesn't have to go away. It's just the big boy's having a tantrum and is currently not part of it. It'll make the United States profoundly weaker. And it's fascinating in a really horrifying sense to watch the Republican Party go along with this. The party that used to emphasize national security. The party, it makes no sense. They need to come to their senses to save their children and their grandchildren. Yeah, you make a pivotal error in this world. You've probably been to Greece and you see the Parthenon up there. The ancient Athenians started getting abusive to their allies. They overextended militarily. And then they had a very dysfunctional politics back home. And it was irretrievable for ancient Athens. They never recovered their preeminence. So go look at the Parthenon. It stands in mute testimony to hubris and the foolish things that people can do. So Americans aren't any different in this if we keep playing our cards so unbelievably poorly and keep demonizing each other instead of working together on shared problems and hearing each other out, by the way.
What's happening right now in Venezuela?
How do I know? I'm not in Venezuela. I understand the big bad boys.
But how do you look at
it's gunboat diplomacy. If you think about it, the United States used to do a lot of gunboat diplomacy. And back in the day, it was all about the Panama Canal, which was much more important before you got these mega container ships and where you can just sail things all around. Whereas before, it was really essential for the United States literally to get its Navy from the East Coast to the West Coast. And then it's been less essential. So there was a lot of gunboat diplomacy going on. Well, even the creation of the Panama Canal, right? It was taken away from Colombia and then it was invested and created. But then you have gunboat diplomacy where the United States is occupying, the Dominican Republic, Nicaragua, for a number of years. You have Eisenhower, who does regime change in Guatemala with Arbenz in 1954. So there's been all this tremendous U.S. involvement there. And you look at Central America and go, has the place improved? Okay, doing this doesn't seem to have gotten us anywhere too special. But then the United States quits under Roosevelt, tries to do the good neighbor policy, and then John F. Kennedy has something else.
Don't you think that if somebody did a Maduro move on Hitler in 1938, we wouldn't have the Second World War?
It's absolutely correct. If the Western powers had not allowed Germany to remilitarize the Rhineland, that was step one, Germany would not have had the industrial resources to do step two. And in order for Germany to really work its magic, for Germany to do all this awful stuff, it requires the resources not only of the Rhineland, but Czechoslovakia, Poland, and then Romania has the oil. And without that, Hitler can't do all this. So this is the problem with allowing first steps that lead to other steps. But here was the negative for Hitler. I learned this anyway, that when he takes over all of Europe, he inherits the big energy deficit zone because Europe doesn't produce oil. And now all of a sudden, he's responsible for this territory. And where is he going to get the oil to even do sort of basic minimal civilian needs? Well, have fun with that one.
Does being a tyrant justify killing him?
You can look at history. If we're all going to be capping each other's leaders, that won't be the first one. It'll happen. Everybody will be doing it. And what is it? There's a wonderful movie that was done in the 70s, The Man for All Seasons, about Sir Thomas More. And his son-in-law is coming to him and saying, well, look, if you want to get the devil, we're going to tear down the legal system if you want to do that. And Sir Thomas says, yeah, and when you get rid of all the laws and the devil turns on you, what are you going to do? So it's a poor idea doing capping.
What is one thing Europe and Poland should not do?
What it should not do is act like all these problems are going to go away and sit there and just ignore national security issues. Because, and I'm thinking that, oh, there's a really important thing, and this is for liberals, many of whom the last thing they would ever want to do is visit a war on someone else. Understand that you do not choose necessarily when wars begin. If it's a war of aggression and you're the aggressor, sure, you may decide. But ask Ukrainians whether they decided the day that war was going to begin. They most certainly did not. And so it is, the rules-based order is something you want to protect within castle walls. So as in the last Cold War, the castle walls held. It wasn't great. It was no good for Poland because you were in the wrong castle walls. But for those who were in the West, in the castle walls, they lived perfectly decent lives while funding very large military budgets, and they're going on great family trips while, as you would know, Phil, well being from Poland, although Poles live far better than Russians, that they lived in a misery of their own making. So this is the importance. You better make sure the castle walls will hold, and then you will live wonderful lives where you're at. And think about it. Where does everyone want to travel? MAGA people included, when they want to travel abroad, if they've got some pocket change. Be Europe. Why? Because it's beautiful. It's wonderful. The architectural heritage, everything. Convenience of travel, the works. So you have a wonderful place to live. Protect it, and you'll keep it, regardless of what idiocy goes on in Washington.
What can Europe do to break the United States-Russia wedge?
I don't think there is a U.S., United States, Russia wedge. I mean, Putin loves it that the war in Ukraine he doesn't love. It's not going well. But they dreamed of breaking the Atlantic Alliance, and Trump is delivering that one on a platter to them. So, but I don't think Trump is doing that. So you're worried about some strategic thing for Trump? Putin may be strategic, but Trump most certainly is not. He's doing it for whatever. He's a real estate mogul. He's like, I want this territory, this territory, this territory. And then at the tactical level, if we're in the room together, he wants to dominate whoever's in the room, right? And whatever it is, I want this, I get this. And then if I don't get this, I up the ante. So I didn't get the Nobel Peace Prize, so Norway, here I come. Okay. So you'll be okay in Europe. The problem with continental dictators is they aren't willing to make any meaningful sacrifices for each other.
Do you recognize Trump as a dictator?
He's a continentalist. So it's a question of, if he wants unlimited executive power, that would define him as a dictator, if that's what he really wants. Apparently he said so, but I mean, correct me if I'm wrong on what he said lately. It changes, right? You don't know from one tweet to the next.
Russia is becoming China's vassal.
Mm-hmm.
What's the United States calculus for pulling them back?
But we're talking about an unstrategic administration. So you're asking me grand strategy.
But maybe president, but Trump has his own administration.
Yeah, but they've all got their fiefdoms and they're all doing their own thing. And they're apparently just trying to make sure they're in good graces with the golfer-in-chief. Having no strategy is not a strategy. It's a recipe for disaster. And they're delivering it up. It's foolish.
What would Russia actually need to defect?
The problem's not going to go away. We're in the second Cold War. It will last several generations. It's a long time. However, in the last Cold War, provided you weren't under Russian occupation, if you're living within the castle walls, you're living a perfectly decent life. There are two ways Russia could go down. One is if its army shatters, and that has happened. That happened threatened to happen in the Russo-Japanese War, and it absolutely happened in World War I. Their army shattered and just wasn't interested in fighting anymore, and that was that. So that's one possibility. It doesn't seem to be happening. So, and no one knows when armies shatter. It's a mystery. You can't predict. Another possibility is when Putin dies, and there will definitely be regime change. So here's my advice to those of people who don't like Russia, don't like what Russia's doing. So you know how your newspapers write obituaries of famous people? They have it all prepared in advance. They know the guy's going to die, and that means the day the guy dies, all they have to do is add a few paragraphs, right? So you need to have a plan for how you're going to deal with Russia and China the day their leaders go. Have it all written up. For Xi Jinping, for any dictator you don't like, have a nice little plan. And militaries are known for doing this. They have what are called war plans against any number of belligerents, but have one for the day the dictator goes and have it all worked out. And then when the time comes, you'll be more ready than without one.
What if Europe won't buy Russia energy anyway? Could it change something?
Russia offers nothing but energy. So yeah, and then when Europe doesn't buy it, so the fields that Europe's not buying from, it would have to reorient them to China, which apparently is difficult. The reason those fields sell to Europe is because that's the best, logistically, that's the best way to do it.
Who loses more from a United States, Russia, grand bargain, China and Europe?
I don't see a U.S., it's too transactional. There's no grand bargain with the United States and Russia. There's no honor among thieves, right? If you're talking about a dictator's deal, once the dictators are gone, even while the dictators are there, it's just transactional. Are dictators gaining force? Their economies aren't actually doing very well. If you look at it and go, Russia's economy is a mess. China's economy is no longer doing as well as it used to by a long shot. In fact, China's economic miracle occurred when it joined the Maritime Party and it cooperated with the Maritime Order. And that's when you get the double-digit growth rates, but that's over. And the longer Xi Jinping doubles down on his 24/7 surveillance state, which is really expensive, by the way. He's putting cameras everywhere, even in classrooms. So if your kid's in the classroom and looks at the teacher and rolls their eyes, and that goes into the kids, the family's social security score, social security meeting, whether you constitute a security threat for the government. Anyway, it's a phenomenal waste of resources, but it's all about the Communist Party staying in power. Iran's economy definitely is not doing well right now, right? How many people have to move out of their capital city because they don't have any water? That speaks to incredible mismanagement. This is the problem with dictators. They mismanage economies.
Can the center hold?
It can. The question is will. And your generation had better do everything within its power to make sure it does. I'm going to age out of this. However it ends, I've already lived my life. I've done all the fun things, right? I've retired, had wonderful children.
Because you look like a happy person, I think. That's why
I'm a believer. I'm a believer in my fellow human beings. And that's why I'm hitting the lecture circuit. I wish I had provided more concepts, and then instead of me blobbing blah, blah, blah on what my predictions are, because who knows, I think the concepts are more helpful so that people can form their own decisions. But yeah, there have been many great generations. The greatest generation in the West is really this World War I conscript generation that became the strategic leaders, particularly after World War II. And it applies to Axis and allies. You think about the Adenauer and people rebuilding Germany, or the post-World War II generation in Japan that turned that whole thing around. So you're facing a crisis while your elders have made a real mess of things, and you will think of better approaches.
I will do what is my best.
Yeah, well, isn't that what you're doing? Is you're trying to interview interesting people to get their take on things and to help other people make informed judgments by having more data available.
In that chaos.
Go for it.
How do you feel as extremely popular historian?
How do I feel?
How do you feel?
I don't understand, but that's okay. I had a very nice person, a little younger than you, early 20s, who wanted to do a podcast. And I said, sure, okay, I'll do a podcast because I believe in helping the young, and not many people were asking me to do podcasts. And he had enough money so that when I was in sabbatical in England, had a wonderful year in Britain, where I got old lady white privilege. Everyone was nice to me. And so he does this 2.5-hour interview, rather like this, lots and lots of questions. And I just keep answering the questions because, hey, I'm devoted to the next generation. It's about sharing and education. And he looked pleased at the end of it and said, I said, cheers, see ya. And then that was like, I don't know, 4 or 5 months later, I get my son who's calling me. He says, Mom, a friend of mine says you've gone viral. I'm like, what are you talking about? And for some reason, it resonates. But what I am is I'm just an old professor. I studied Russia and China my entire life. I'm not an academic fraud, and there are many professors who are academic frauds. I don't know why they want to be professors. It's not a very good profession, and they just want to BS around and not actually do the research. What did I do? I spent a long time. I would spend lots of time correcting papers. I read them all. I edited each line to show people how to write better. I don't know whether all of them appreciated it or thought I was being obnoxious. I was doing my best. And I developed these lectures, which are not, they're based on years of research. I published, and my vacations and weekends were spent doing all of this research. And so my life was divided between raising kids and then my job. So there wasn't like a lot of extracurricular stuff going on. And so it's about sharing and education is what I'm up to. And also when working for the US Navy, my student body is really diverse. People think of diversity in terms of ethnicity, but it's not diversity in educational backgrounds. Some of them have online degrees, which means not much education at all. It's because their family didn't have money, so they're doing the best they can. And then other ones will be like doctors, right? Or they'll be engineers. Many of them are engineers. Loads of them are engineers, so they're really good at physics and things. And so I have to give a lecture that I don't lose people who are trying really hard, but just they have never had a really good college education, to other people who have a PhD in the subject. And so it involves going at quite a rapid pace and a bunch of slides and other things. But also, the older I've gotten is the more important I believe the concepts are that I've learned. My career serendipitously, I wind up working for the Navy. And it turns out I'm an expert in 2 continental empires, Russia and China, and then all of a sudden I'm doing this naval stuff. But it's developing these concepts for how you understand that. In my case, I studied Russia and China deliberately not to study the United States, because I thought, look, I'm an American. I want to study something where I don't have any vested anything. I don't, as far as I know, have any Russian ancestors or Chinese. And so I'm just going to study it and learn about our Japanese. But I think human beings, as an old person, what I've found important in my life, I share it with you. I think my 2 key values are honesty. So I'm giving you the best things as I see it. It doesn't mean I'm right, but I'm being honest about this is why I believe in. I try to provide you the reasons why. And also being kind. And that sometimes the 2 run at cross purposes. But I think if you do that over a lifetime, if you try to be kind to people, like, why be mean? What's the point? We're on this planet for such a short time. It's such a beautiful planet. Coming in here in this snowy morning, I came in through the Boston State House.
Today, Boston looks beautiful, right?
It was magical. All the dirt's covered up. Well, I'm looking at the State House where the American Revolution was, taking pictures for my kids and things. That it's a beautiful world. And then at the end of your life, then you aren't an angry, nasty person because you've done the best you could by other people. And you've done a career that you found interesting. And what every generation should do, that's what I'm at the stage I'm at now, is passing the baton. I have a certain number of prepared lectures. I'm trying to get them podcasted, unpaywalled, and I pass the baton to others. And they decide what's useful and what's not. And I've tried to give a lot of concepts. I think this tactical, operational, and strategic is really important for understanding the non-strategic thinking going on in both political parties, and particularly the Republican Party right now.
If you could find answer for one question about policymakers, reality around what it would be?
Well, I don't, this is on very short notice that you're asking me this. I think for each country, the problems that you're most able to solve are the ones at home. So you should definitely solve those. You shouldn't ignore national security, you got to pay attention to, or it'll be game over. But you need to solve domestic problems. And the United States has been fooling around. What I wish some bright Americans your age-ish would go and read the tax code in great detail and figure out what on earth is going on, because tax codes allocate money. Who gets money? Who doesn't get money? Who gets no tax deals? Who has to pay everything? It has to do with the allocation of resources in society. And it just feels like there's a big heist going on, or a big grift, where those who are, like, I look at it, 3 people owning half the wealth of over 50% of the United States, and you look at their age and realize they've done it in the last 10 or 15 years. How is that possible? Something's up. And so I suspect what is going on is whoever's in on the heist or the grift wants us all squabbling about who qualifies for the girls' swim team, or who gets into the girls' bathroom and who doesn't, or whom we can throw out as immigrants, and how brutally we can do it, and how brutally we can do it and get away with it, or or gunboat stuff with Venezuela, instead of, I wonder if the real issue, in order to make America great again, is to look at our tax code and clean her up, and allocate cash appropriately, and make those people who pay money should pay money. And for the billionaire class, if the world order goes down, they will be the first people to go down with it. And they should watch as the billionaires fly out of windows in Russia. That's how it goes. Because think about it. Business people control money. Politicians control power. And when you have a dictatorship, all the power is going to go with the politicians, and the commercial elites will go out flying out of windows. And you think about in these world wars, how they have fared over the losing sides. Not well. They're so much better with the rules-based world order, where they'll remain billionaires. But they need to allow other people in the bottom also to make some money. We all have agency. All of us can do something. Have you listened to Jane Goodall's final words? Jane Goodall is the expert in primates. She was British. You go Google it. Jane Goodall, final words. And so she has this really improbable life where she goes into the heart of Africa, and she's studying monkeys and makes brilliant contributions, and has been a transformative, as far as one human being, person. And she's a lesson to us all. And she says it in her final words, spoiler alert, each one of us can make a difference. We can all do it in different ways. And in different times in your career, you can do it in different ways. So I'm apparently now a public intellectual. Never figured that was what was going to happen to me. But that's my contribution. You can do different things. So at a different age, you have to make sure you don't get fired, particularly if you have children, and you need to get the hostages out of the house and do those things. But there are other things you can do, like not be mean to people for openers. You can also, one of the easiest things that everyone can do for other people, it makes things a little better, is if you notice someone who's done something that's wonderful, tell them. It costs you nothing. And it'll make them feel better. Right? Recognizing what other people do, and they're important. And that can be transformative of getting rid of this really sour atmosphere. But all of us, the totality, I'm going to go back to Carl Deutsch. There are many more wonderful people on this planet than there are the psychopaths that you're worrying about. And worrying about, I wonder if you get someone, an anthropologist or someone, study dictators and psychopaths, and I bet you will find a much higher percentage of dictators are psychopaths than non-dictators. Probably because if you have no scruples, that may be one of the ways where you would even want to be a dictator in the first place. But most people aren't like that. So if all of us get our acts together, vote and work on it and try to bring out the best in each other, it will work out better.
Thank you very much for your time, Professor Paine.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.